What can we learn about our concept of God through the study of large language models? Well, that's a topic that I was alerted to today on Jordan Peterson's Twitter, where he referred to this research. I wanted to go over it with you and see what you think and what I think and whether it makes good sense or not. So this is from collectivelabs.ai, semantic core clarification. And here's what they write. Many concepts that we use are inherently ambiguous. Terms like God, truth, and goodness are complex and variable concepts that lack a tangible referent compared to concrete terms like tables and chairs. While semantic core clarification reduces the ambiguity of concepts by finding the tangible concepts that cumulatively approximate their meaning. So in other words, we're going to take a concept that in and of itself does not have a tangible referent, and it's going to, quote, find the tangible concepts that cumulatively approximate that meaning. So here in the image, you see that prince is linked to heir, boy, and king. And they say something about that in what follows. The last hidden layer of large language models represents the relative meaning of words to that model in a semantic space. Words that are close to each other in that space, like truck and car, have a similar meaning. Words that are far apart, like truck and sandwich, have a dissimilar meaning. What about related words? Like, for example, truck and bumper. I guess that would be close. Truck and wheel, truck and guns. It gives you a sense. Things that belong together are roughly coded together. They're physically located together in that space. When the coordinates of specific words in this space are added together, the resulting vector represents the composite meaning of those words. The composite meaning can be inferred from the vectors that are nearest to the composite. For example, when the coordinates of boy, king, and heir are combined, the resulting vector is close to the coordinates for prince. Now I wonder, are they landing on something else besides prince, and prince just happens to be nearby, and it's the only plausible candidate for the combination of boy, king, and heir? So what does it mean to say that it's very close to the coordinates for prince? Why is it not exactly the coordinates for prince? Is that because prince maybe also needs like princess and castle and sword or something else? But okay, fine. Boy, king, and heir get us close to the coordinates for prince if we do this vector addition or composition. This aligns with our intuitive understanding of the concept of prince. A prince is a boy who is heir to be king. SSC, which again is this semantic core clarification, searches through the semantic space of LLMs to find which terms, when combined, most closely approximate the position of target words in that space. Application. To clarify the concept of God, the hidden layer of two LLMs was probed, DESC LM7B and Llama 3.8B. Both of these models are top performers in their respective classes as of April 2024. All 3 word combinations of 1,000 common abstract nouns were computed, and their respective positions were calculated relative to the position of the God vector in each semantic space. So a few things we could ask, why was it 3 word combinations, not 2, 4, 5? Why was it 1,000 common abstract nouns and not 10,000? How would the answers differ if we varied those things? But let's go with this, 3 word combinations, 1,000 common abstract nouns. And now we get the results that in the Llama 3 semantic space, the combination of fortune, awe, and law produced the vector that was closest to the God vector, even better than the combination of Lord, Yahweh, and Elohim. Fortune, awe, and law. And when I saw this, I'm just going to pause and tell you that what jumped out, well, okay, wait, I'll tell you in a minute. In the DESI LM semantic space, the combination of spirit, law, and greed produced the vector that was closest to the God vector, again, doing better than Lord, Yahweh, and Elohim. So first thing you notice here is that law is common to both of these, which I think shows you just how integral to the notion of God is the notion of law, or vice versa, just how integral to the notion of law is the notion of God. You know what I mean? Law and God are very closely related. Then, okay, spirit, you can see that sort of the spirit of God, God as spirit, God in the spiritual world, God as the topic of spirituality. Okay, fortune up here on Llama 3, you can understand that as well, because God is kind of like, take Xenophon on Socrates. He says Socrates used to say that if you have something that belongs to a technical skill, you don't really need to pray. You just need to apply the technical skill. But when there's something that falls outside of the technical skill and is a matter of fortune or chance, something over which you don't have control, then it's appropriate to pray to the gods for help in that area. So for example, you know that you can heal a man with your skill, but you don't know whether it's going to be the good fortune of this man to go on and live a good life or a bad life, whether you're doing him good or evil by healing him. Okay, so the things that lie outside of technical control that fall under fortune are the things that we refer to God, for instance. And awe, this sense of overpowering majesty that we defer to the great authority and presence and glory of something greater than ourselves, a sense of awe before the Almighty, the awesomeness of the Almighty. So fortune, awe, and law produced there is spirit, law, and greed. You can wonder why LLM semantic space coded the word greed as part of the vector combination that gets us closest to God. Why do you think that is? What's the relationship between God and greed? And does that actually help us to clarify the concept of God, or does that introduce new sets of questions? By the way, needless to say, that each of these concepts in turn, fortune, awe, law, spirit, and greed, is potentially its own abstract concept that isn't necessarily tangible. Is awe more tangible than God for you? Maybe in a sense. Is fortune? Yeah, I guess if you have good luck, bad luck, if things are going your way or not going your way, it's hard to call that tangible, so to speak, but it's relatable. Maybe it has more self-evidence behind it, that we know what we're talking about when we talk about fortune. We know what we're talking about when we talk about law. Although it's not so straightforward, because Plato has a dialogue called the Minos on the topic, what is law? And Plato's great book, which I've been mentioning in all my videos lately, The Laws. I'm doing a course on it at Millerman School. It also gets you into the question about law. What is law? What does law aim at? And all of that. So don't think that these concepts, never mind, spirit and greed, are all self-evidently clear. But at any rate, okay, this research says that we can clarify the God vector using, in its semantic space, using these three-word combinations. Why this matters for AI research, SCC reveals how AI models conceptualize the world. The biases imparted into these models through corpus selection and fine-tuning are reflected in the semantic space of these models, right? They're not equivalent. They didn't give us the same answer. They gave us different answers with the overlap on law, which, as I say, is conspicuous and interesting and promising for those of you who are interested in political theology and the relationship of God to law, God's law, divine law, crucially important themes. The DESI-LM and the Llama 3 models converge in their attribution of law to the concept of God, though the DESI model tilts the concept in a negative direction with the attribution of greed, which we noted and kind of leave as a question mark why that should be. By elucidating how AI models see the world, now, of course, they don't really see the world, right? They've just been tasked with a very technical operation here of combining vectors to approximate a space in the a location in the semantic space. But let's call that, quote unquote, seeing the world. By elucidating how AI models see the world, SCC can provide critical insight into the inherent biases and blind spots of these models, and thereby contribute significantly to the ongoing conversation about AI ethics. That's not clear either. How would you know whether it's a bias or a blind spot if you're using vector analysis to clarify the concept of God? Because if you see that something's missing, that means you already have an existing concept of God. And then you're really asking, can we make our large language models approximate what we, give us the answer that we want? We're not going to learn anything new about God. We're just going to fine tune them until they spit out exactly what we believe belongs to the concept of God. That's what it would mean to find something missing in a way. Or a bias. Are we going to say that these quote unquote definitions or conceptual clarifications, vector-based expositions of the meaning of God are biased towards the notion of a divine law? In what sense could you treat this sort of analysis? Maybe bias has a very specific meaning in the context of this LLM research, in which case you should comment and let me know how you think that works. But okay, does it give us critical insight into the inherent biases and blind spots of these models and contribute significantly to the ongoing conversation about AI ethics? I mean, maybe the idea is that I'm going to give you a vulgar example. You plug in woman and it spits out kitchen, children, and homemaker. And you say, hey, wait a minute, that sounds sexist. We're going to fine tune our AI to be feminist. And it's now going to say, businesswoman, doctor, astronaut. Or, then that means you discovered a bias or you discovered something missing. If you put in who knows what, you come up with your own examples, okay, of what that might look like. Is that what they mean here about contributing significantly to the ongoing conversation about AI ethics? You can't want to clarify the concept of God using a large language model In other words, hope that the large language model teaches you something you didn't know, elucidates something that you didn't see, shows you the constituent sub-concepts of a concept that for you was originally and initially unclear and vague. You can't use it to do all of that, can you? And at the same time say, no, the result that it gives me is biased. It's not what I want. It needs to be tweaked. Because what if this gave us something completely unexpected? I wouldn't say that fortune, awe, and law is unexpected. I wouldn't say that spirit and law is unexpected. I would say greed is kind of unexpected. So let's take that. We have greed in the LLM semantic space, together with spirit and law, getting us close to the God vector. So what do we do about this? Do we say, there's some notion in the concept of God concerning greed that we need to think through, because we didn't sort of expect to find it there, but now that we do find it, we need to think about it? Or do we say, oh, you know what, let's fine tune the system so that we get spirit, law, and love, spirit, law, and justice, spirit, law, and resurrection, spirit, law, and hope. Okay, understanding ourselves is the next section. Insofar as there is agreement between LLMs or unbiased models are used in SCC, meaning again, semantic core clarification, the resulting semantic map can provide insight into our collective consciousness. This is because LLMs encode the semantic maps that are contained in our minds. Okay, I tell you as a non-expert in this field that this sounds like hugely overpromising and under-delivering, although a topic that is interesting enough to want to sort of specify how it overpromises and underdelivers and what its full potential might be. But let's see, the DESI-LM and Llama 3 models converge in their attribution of law to the concept of God. This suggests that a normative element is central to the concept of God, independent of the corpus and fine-tuning. Is that what it suggests? A normative element is central to the concept of God. Well, not just normative. There's more to being law than being normative, even though law is normative. So for example, the concept of law itself would have to be disambiguated as to what's more important, political power, the political power of the lawmakers, or the law's normativity. You see? This suggests, again, that a normative element is central to the concept of God, independent of the corpus and fine-tuning. By rank ordering the concept combinations in both semantic spaces, we find 3 terms to closely approximate the meaning of God in both spaces. So this is by doing a rank ordering the concept combinations. They find law, will, and wealth. This suggests that at its core, our collective conception of God is derived from our intuitions of normativity, volition, and abundance. So let's say it's true that wealth means abundance and will means volition. Does law mean normativity or does law mean authority? Anyway, kind of interesting. Let's see. That's it on this short presentation. Again, Jordan Peterson was pretty excited by this when he posted about it, which I'll show you again in a minute. All kinds of questions. You know, in and of itself, this is an interesting little experiment, but it leaves open a lot of questions, as you see. Also, the fact that in this training data, certain notions coalesce or certain combinations produce a vector that's close to another vector, that is not equivalent to saying that that is the right definition of God. It clarifies what in the training data of the LLM, according to its inputs, which again was 3-word combination of 1,000 common abstract nouns. So given a certain training, given a certain input, given a certain training data, then you get an output that approximates this combination of vectors to the God vector or the given vector. But to repeat, maybe it was trained on the data of 999 imbeciles and 1 genius, and the genius's true definition of God is never going to come through this sort of calculative or combinatorial or vector mathematical approach. And yet it is conspicuous, as I say, that law in particular tracks so closely in this training data. So that's what I wanted to show you. Let's go back to what Peterson actually wrote so that you can see why I even wanted to look at this. He says, God as law, awe, and fortune. LLM analysis reveals that the concept of God is well defined in semantic space by this 3-word combination. It provides a closer match than, for example, Lord, Yahweh, and Elohim, which again is sort of not surprising because Lord, Yahweh, and Elohim are Hebrew words. Well, okay, Yahweh and Elohim, Hebrew. law, awe, and fortune, not Hebrew, and presumably you have more instances of the words law, awe, and fortune than you have of Lord Yahweh and Elohim. Not sure how that factors in or doesn't. And Peterson here tagging Elon Musk saying we can effectively use the LLMs to investigate the definitions of the sacred. Yeah, I mean, do you even need to go there? Like, if you have read any theology, if you have read any mysticism, if you have read anything ever about God, wouldn't you just know independently of what the LLMs tell you factors into the definitions of the sacred? Do you need to do semantic core clarification in order to have an approximate concept of the prince? And do you actually learn more about being a prince through this mathematical equation, heir plus boy plus king, than you would learn, for example, in spending some time reading Machiavelli's Prince? Do you learn more about the concept of God by seeing that it clusters with spirit, greed, fortune, and awe than you would if you actually read God's law? If you read the Torah, if you read the Quran, if you read Plato's laws, if you read the Bible, I don't know. This is one of those things that feels like it is kind of interesting. And again, at a simple level, sort of as it were for marketing purposes, the fact that law clusters is very good to remind people that thinking about law means thinking about God and vice versa. And maybe wealth too, thinking about wealth and thinking about God, thinking about will and thinking about God. So it's a good way to prompt people to think more carefully about God, spirit, law, greed, and all these other things. But does it do what it said it does? Does it represent the composite meaning of a word? Does it clarify in a tangible way the ambiguity of concepts like God? Tangible concepts that cumulatively approximate their meaning? I'm not sure. You know, there's a world in which you combine these different elements here and you say, oh yeah, God is greed over here. God is wealth down here. God is will over here. Oh, okay, God means being greedy and getting wealthy. Or, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't really deliver, in some sense, the goods the way that we would want to have them. Any more than, I mean, this falls way short of something like the 99 names of God. You know what I'm talking about? Hold on, I'll pull it up. See this? Al-Ghazali, the 99 beautiful names of God. Why would you not just get the 99 beautiful names of God from Al-Ghazali instead of the 3 or 6 or 7 or 8 quote unquote vector conceptual elements of the vague notion of God from the LLM analysis? You know? So, okay, over here, there's an academic paper validating word embedding as a tool for the psychological sciences. Maybe we'll read that on another occasion. So there you go. Okay, semantic core clarification on the concept of God, fortune, awe, and law, spirit, law, and greed. Finally, in this third version, law, will, and wealth. What do you take away from that? What do you think about that besides the actually genuinely insightful connection of God and law? Is this a method that actually teaches us something new, that gets us deeper? Or like Jordan Peterson wondered here, can we effectively, and he didn't actually wonder, he asserted, we can effectively use the LLMs to investigate the definitions of the sacred, or, you know, you could just read books about the sacred and about the holy and not have to rely on computation. That's what I wanted to share with you in this video. I'd love to know what you think. Like, share, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you in the next video.